Hey, Wellness Crew, it's Jenna L. Tripp, and I am super excited to be with you today because the topic that I want to talk about is staying motivated. Now, this is something we all struggle with, all of us, unless you're a robot or a super highly developed, leveled up person, right? Now, I consider myself on my way to being leveled up. I'm getting there, but I never consider anybody to be perfectly leveled up or perfectly and entirely in their energy, whether it's feminine energy, whether it's masculine energy, it doesn't matter. You're not all the way there in even, a good amount of time. There's always work to do, there's always inner work to do. But alas, that's not what I need to stay motivated about. And I'm not sure what you need to stay motivated about. But I just had this calling, this feeling that someone today needed to hear about how to be more motivated and how to stay motivated. It's very easy in the beginning, right? Because you're pumped up. You are like roaring to go. It is so easy in the beginning. And then we hit that spot that's about 21 days, right? Okay. So 21 days is about how long it takes to form a habit. Oftentimes what happens is people get excited, they get to their 2 week mark, and then that third week mark, for whatever reason, and I've noticed this in my clients, for whatever reason, stuff starts to kind of happen, right? So one thing we definitely want to do is plan for chaos. Not everything is going to be roses and golden and perfect, right? We have our families, we have, or if you're single, you have commitments to other things. We all have all these things that are pulling us in all these different directions. And we often forget we need to plan for when things aren't going to be perfect. Now, when things aren't going to be perfect and, you're not following your habits and your goals and all that kind of stuff the way that you would normally want to, it's okay. But don't give up. Just don't give up. It's okay to have an off day or two. You may be struggling with something, kind of like how I struggle with my lupus. You may be struggling with something, health-wise, physically, maybe mentally. There's some stuff going on. You just want to do your best to plan for when there's going to be days that aren't perfect, that aren't going to go like 100% your way. Now, you can automatically take some deep breaths. Meditate is what I would highly suggest, but not everybody likes to meditate, and I get it. But even if it's just a few deep breaths, even if it's just 4 or 5 of those, right? Making sure that our stomach is extended when we're breathing in and then going back in as we're breathing out. Things like that, right? Just taking a deep breath and start talking to yourself positively and start saying, okay, so this happened. Maybe your kid's sick from school, got sent home from school or something like that. What you can always do is then, okay, well, certain things now have to be put on hold. Certain, habits, routines have to be put on hold or put to a different time. Or you may just have to wait until tomorrow. Now, that's okay. A great thing to do is to think about them, to think about the things that you normally would be doing, whether it's, affirmations or manifestation or whatever it is that your goal is, right? Even, let's say it's working out, for example. Okay, so you're not working out right now. Bummer. Think about it though. Envision yourself working out and then try to think of a way that perhaps you can get something in, even if it's just for a few minutes, just to make yourself feel better. do not beat yourself up with guilt, right? Chaos happens and it's out of our control, but always plan for it. Always plan for days that aren't going to be super smooth. Okay? Another thing too, when you have a goal, typically, because I don't follow this rule, but typically, right, you would want to try to work on just one goal at a time. Now, when you're super motivated and super excited, you have a whole bunch of goals that you want to work on and a whole bunch of things you want to do at the same time. I highly caution against that, and let me tell you why. I did a slew of goals and all that kind of stuff, and what happened for me is I had to cut it down a little bit. Yes, I still work on multiple goals at the same time, but not only that, when you're working on either it's one goal or a few goals at the same time, because I do believe that there are people that are actually really good at multitasking. But even when you have multiple goals that you're working on at the same time, work on one of those goals at a time. That's the key. Also, put it on the calendar. So if you have a date that you want this to be done by, put it on the calendar. The big goals, but the small ones as well that are going to lead you to get to those bigger goals, that are going to lead you to lose that weight, that are going to lead you to get that promotion, that are going to lead you to, you know, be a better parent, or whatever the goal may be, or to find the person that, you know, you're looking for to date, to work on yourself, you know, whatever the goals are, break them up into smaller ones, as I've talked about before, and get on it. But put it on a calendar, put it in your phone. When you put it in your phone, you can, you know, have it do that reminder thing, set it for all day, like put it in the calendar, like for all day, and then put the reminder and stuff. You can even do like the multiple reminders of the like 2 hours and 3 hours and all that stuff. Do it. It's such a great idea. And, you know, if you're kind of anti-writing things down, even though I'm a big proponent of writing everything down, but I get it. Use technology if you want to. I get it, 100%. Now, the other thing is, okay, you're not motivated. How do we get you there? Let's work on those goals, right? But let's make them a habit, right? So I understand you have to plan for chaos. So sometimes you can't work on it every single day, but try to make whatever your goal is a habit. So what that usually means is working on it every day. Things are going to come up, and that's why I said think about it in your head instead then, right? Visualize yourself, really focus on the visualization. For me, I know when I have plans to create certain videos and I don't get a chance to do them, then what do I start doing? I just start thinking. I start thinking about, okay, this is what I want it to look like. This is how I want it to feel. There's going to be a yoga video where I am freezing my butt off coming up that I'm going to be making because it is cold here today. And allergy season, as usual, of course, is still here. So it's going to be lots of fun and hopefully no nose drips. We talked about setting smaller goals. Now, track your progress. This is where the writing it down comes big into play for me because, again, it's just like when we were children. When we were in, you know, elementary school and middle school and stuff like that, we didn't really use computers all that much except for like typing and I guess doing like some graphic stuff and all that. At least that was my experience. But our brains just operate better when we're writing it down, that writing, because it's a physical connection. Because even with typing, our brains don't really understand, or especially this, our brains don't really understand what we're saying. But for whatever reason, when we're writing down, writing things down, there's this connection. So tracking your progress, right? That also allows you the opportunity to maybe move around your, goal dates and stuff like that in your calendar. Maybe you get to move it up because you're doing good, or great, whatever. I don't really like to use the words good and bad because I feel like the connotations are bullshit. But tracking your progress is super important, and that includes, how you're feeling about it, what you did, things like that. It's really easy when it comes to like losing weight and stuff like that. If weight loss is a goal, tracking is so easy, right? Because what are you going to do? You can write down a number. So, and that's if you want to lose weight. Now, let's say that you are wanting to put on weight because you're trying to put on muscle and stuff like that. Same thing. Super easy to track. There's great scales out there that will also be able to tell you like your water weight, your muscle weight, and your bone weight. So they're great. They're not that expensive. You can literally find them anywhere. I mean, I say Amazon is always a go-to, but there's other places. There's regular, stores out there too. So there's always that. Now, here's why tracking your progress is such a great idea, because then you get to reward yourself for even the smallest wins. The small wins, the big wins. Let's say you're making progress, right? Let's say you've gotten to a certain point where you're like, hey, I'm like a quarter of a way there, or I'm even 10% there. Celebrate that win, right? Celebrate that win. Keep yourself in that positive mindset. Keep yourself in that great, like, okay, like that. It's going to make you feel like in like the early days, like when you first started, keep yourself there in that place as much as you can. Because again, we never know when chaos is going to occur, but we can definitely control our perception, our reaction, and we are in control of our thoughts and our feelings. So we can always like feel free, right, to, if we're hitting a metric, as I like to say, then celebrate it, right? I love it. I love it. I love it. And then I would say too, have an accountability buddy, right? Someone that you trust, that's positive, that's a good, friend, or a family member, or a loved one, or someone, that you've been seeing or something that you feel comfortable talking about this stuff with. And always make sure that you kind of let them know, like, hey, so this is what I'm working on. I would really appreciate if you could kind of like once in a while maybe check in on me and remind me, or just know that I'm going to reach out to you and check in with you, because I'm going to kind of have you be my accountability partner on this, right? Now, some people don't like the idea of doing that because a lot of people have a hard time reaching out for help. Totally fine. You can always have a coach. You can get a coach, an accountability coach, a wellness coach like I do, or inner work, all that kind of stuff. I kind of encompass a whole bunch of things because of my experience. But accountability buddies or a coach. Pick one and do it. I'm telling you, it's going to help you so much when it comes to staying motivated and when it comes to reaching your goals, because you're going to have someone positive that's there for you, that really cares and that wants to motivate you. And last but not least, okay, is practice gratitude. So even in a day of total chaos, and I've had those myself, So even in a day of total chaos, I always practice gratitude. Now, when I do my gratitude lists, I talk about, obviously, the people that I'm grateful for, the situations that I'm grateful for, the opportunities that I'm grateful for. But what I also talk about are the things about myself that I'm grateful for. So I'm, always, not all the time, but with this one, but I'm, always saying that I'm grateful for my bravery. And let me tell you why. So I used to have, as I've talked about before, I used to have a major stutter when I was a lot younger. And it was super embarrassing. I wasn't able to communicate like everybody else. We actually had a point, I remember in middle school, where we had to do reading, right? And we would each go through the desks and we'd have to read out loud. And of course, I was the one that struggled the most and had the hardest, most difficult time. So being on video and being able to communicate in a more effective way and not have that, like that stutter or whatever. I mean, because it would be with like the most random consonants, the most random vowels sometimes. If something started with an A, I had the most difficult time. So I always think about, when I'm doing like my gratitude lists, where I've come from, not so much the past as much as look how far you've come. Look at all of the stuff that you've done, that you've made possible, and it wasn't alone. It was by the support of a lot of people, don't get me wrong, and they're all named in my gratitude list. But show yourself gratitude, right? So don't just be about your attributes or the things that you've overcome, but be grateful for yourself. However, it'll probably make you feel a lot better if you list some of the attributes about yourself or the things about yourself that make you feel happy, that make you feel proud, that make you feel accomplished. And all of these ways, all of these techniques, these are great ways to stay motivated. And that is the biggest thing, because sometimes we fall short, and it's okay. It's totally okay. Just as long as you're not letting it go for too long. Now, obviously, people with health issues and stuff like that, that's a different thing. I wouldn't say consider, a day off from, working on your goals and stuff like that as a big thing. However, even if you're in bed, even if you're doing something, you can find an alternative. So let's say that your thing is that you want to, look better, feel better. Okay. So don't stop eating healthier foods, for one thing, right? That's one. Or even if you're in bed, you could be reading a book on fitness. There's so many books out there. There's so many things out there. You can be scrolling your phone. And again, just envisioning yourself doing these things, so helpful and so amazing to do. I never want anyone to get in a track of not being motivated anymore and giving up. This happens a lot with like New Year's resolutions, which is why I never make one. When I decide to do something, I just do it. And I do try to plan for chaos. Am I perfect at it? No, absolutely not. Even coaches aren't perfect at it. But what we can do is we can be honest about our own experiences, so that way our clients are able to see, like, okay, so it's okay to have like an off day and all that. Is it ideal? No. I'm gonna be straight up. No, it's not. And, there might be other things that work too. The mental health aspect part of it is a big one. When there's big life changes and there's, like whatever the life change may be, I don't want to get too specific with that one. But whenever stuff like that happens, sometimes, yes, it does lead to depression. And yes, it does lead to, more negative thinking. But again, you're in control of your thoughts and your feelings and your reactions. It's no one else's responsibility but your own. But what do you have in your toolbox? You have the option for an accountability partner or a coach. So there's options everywhere. There's solutions everywhere. You just have to believe. And some days I know it's difficult, but I promise you, even if you have a bad day, that doesn't mean that the next day is going to be bad. It doesn't mean that at all. And maybe you're like me and you're like a multitasking goal person. Maybe you just need to slow it down a little bit. Maybe even though I make sure to focus on one at a time when I'm working on my goals, maybe just put a goal off until later, not the big one maybe, but maybe the big one, maybe you just need more time to work on the smaller aspects of the goal. And that's fine, that's okay. We all make progress at our own pace, at our own level. So as long as you're trying to move forward, even when you plan for chaos, it's a chaos day, as long as you're trying to move forward, that's really all that matters. Keep on going, keep on moving forward, keep on being positive. Don't give up. Do not give up. I'm telling you, because that is the past identity of yourself. That is the past version of yourself trying to sabotage. And you don't need that, and you deserve so much better, I promise you. You really do. I know what I'm worth. And I know that if I'm worth that much, you are too. So please, please, please like and subscribe or follow so that way I can provide you with more content just like this. I am so hopeful for you that you are able to stay motivated now, that you have some tools in your toolbox. And until the next video.